I'd like to open the regular planning board meeting for October 4th, Monday. It is 6:01 p.m. We are being video recorded, audio recorded, and televised on the town cable live. First up, I'd like to introduce and welcome Michael Burris as our new town planner. It's been a long time coming, and I really appreciate your coming. If you could tell us just a brief history of yourself so that we can broadcast it live. Maybe you need a microphone.
Sure. So previously I was working as a planner in Franklin County. That's located, the major municipality there is Columbus, Ohio. Before that, I was working in a town in Vermont called Milton. It's about 30 minutes north of Burlington. And I just landed here in Bristol a couple of days ago. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but I'm excited to be here to serve the residents of Westport.
Good. Thank you. Normally, you'd be helping us run the meeting, but since you're brand new, we're going to have Amy continue to do that, and she may do that off and on during the whole time. So next up would be Chapter 61 release, file number 22-003 CH61. The Select Board is requesting comments on the release of land owned by Paul L. and Viola P. Gay, located at 0 Division Road, map 48, lot 12. And we had this before us at our previous meeting, and we asked to have this postponed, this decision postponed until we could find out more information. As you see on your iPads, it's about a 31-acre parcel that is on Division Road. I have spoken with Ross Moran, the director of the Westport Land Conservation Trust, and he is aware of this property and has spoken with the Gays previously about this and other land that they have, which is contiguous with this parcel. He doesn't feel that this one warrants the preservation of anything in particular. It's a wooded property, and it has some wetlands in it. The neighboring property is much more of concern to them, and I think that that's being sold also by the Gays, but it'll stay in Chapter 61. So I think the people who are buying it are going to keep it as it is. But I would, myself, I would like to hear others. I would be of the bent to suggest to the Select Board that it's okay to release. Any more comments, questions?
Jim, as I recall, they're selling this to a company that wants to put a solar farm on it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in speaking with Ross, he understands that. He knows that, but our new bylaw, as long as it's approved by the Attorney General, would limit the disturbance to 12 acres out of the 31. And there doesn't seem to be any prominent stream that goes into the river or into Allen's Pond, but I think the wetlands on the west side of the property really drains into Allen's Pond watershed as opposed to the Westport River watershed. Not that that's a big difference, it's still of some concern, but there's really not a stream there. And there's no indication that that's a cold water stream. I don't know for a fact if it is or not, but they don't have any desire to try to expend their money to preserve it, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, do you want a motion?
Please.
Mr. Chair, given the information you've provided and given the limited amount of funds to protect land in the community, I would move that we notify the select board that we have no objection to a Chapter 61 release in this parcel located at 0 Division Road, map 48, lot 12.
I second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Next is Coastal Healing, file number 19-015 SP-SPA-MM. The applicant is requesting approval of a final certificate of occupancy. And I'm going to turn this over to Amy, and just with a question first. I thought when we started this discussion a few weeks ago, that they were asking if they could open with a temporary CO. And, yep,
Are you
I'm done. So, did you hear me?
I did, I can, yes.
Okay. So the question is, I think this discussion started with, can they open with a temporary CO? But now we're asking for a final CO.
Yes, so I believe they can open with a temporary CO. However, Mr. Burnell, who I think may be present in the audience, I can't see,
Yes.
is asking for a final, we're asking for a final CO. But in my planner's report and the coastal healing review and the email from George Mello, I'm not quite sure if it's ready for final CO, since there's 2 permits from the Mass DOT that have not been completed yet. So the temporary CO that he has right now expires on October 18th. And so I'm not sure who would be the best move to just issue another temporary CO instead of a final CO and wait until those 2 permits are all completed.
Okay, for clarity in the meeting, can you tell us, I know that there was a meeting of a lot of the interested parties last week at the site, talking about a lot of different things, ADA compliance, completion of the driveway into the place, et cetera, et cetera. And George Mello was there. Who is he representing? Is he representing us? And for which company?
He is from GDM Consultants.
He was there on the highway surveyor's behalf over the curb cut. I mean, the street opening on the curb cut.
For the highway surveyor or the state?
The highway surveyor, because the permit was taken out in the town's name. So there was a little bit of
The
confusion.
curb cut was taken out?
Not the curb cut.
The electrical utilities.
The street
All the
opening.
utilities.
Yeah, the street opening. Well, I'm assuming that the gas company got their own.
Yeah.
But the water department is the selectman, and I believe our previous town administrator did the paperwork for the permit.
Oh, okay. So where does that leave us? I mean, is it, we're not responsible for the curb cut stuff or the stuff with Mass Highway.
Right. What
But-
happens is, so the curb cut is filed by the applicant's engineer, and on their behalf, what's supposed to happen on the street opening permit is the facilities operator files a permit, and then a licensed and certified Mass Highway contractor performs that work. So what happened, the way we did it is, the work was performed, but that original contractor is not Mass Highway certified. So you can do it that way if we had if we had a license for Dreamland. The town has the facilities operator pulls the permit with the state and then allows their licensed and insured contractor
basically is left to do?
Patch, I believe, Amy, has to be ground and paved. You lost her.
I think
Oh,
you're
no.
frozen.
So,
There
while we
she
get
is.
Amy,
She's back.
is this a question that they don't have all of their permits, according to Amy's report, and therefore they shouldn't be getting a certificate of occupancy? And if Amy said their temporary one expires in mid-October, is the question before us whether we should issue another temporary
I think that-
certificate? I mean, I assume we're not talking about issuance of a permanent one because they don't have their permits yet.
Right, well,
They have the
they
permit, they
have
just
the
don't-
permits, they don't have the sign off that they're complete.
Right.
So they have the permits to do what they're supposed to do, as far as I understand it.
But they haven't completed anything.
But they have, there's a few little things that they must complete before Mass Highway will give them an okay.
Right, and until that is
So-
completed,
So the question before us first was, can they open with a temporary CO? And I think the answer to that is yes, they could. Whether that's a smart thing to do, since it will be expiring on the middle of October, is really up to them. The question of, that's more recent is, can we, they're requesting a, sign off on the, a completion from us, so
Right.
that they can get a true CO. We don't give COs.
Yeah,
So,
we don't issue,
Any-
building permits or occupancy permits at all. So ours is really to say the work under, is the work under our jurisdiction done or not?
Right.
And actually, the work out in front of the Route 6, the patching of Route 6 is really the MassDOT's permit. It's
Right.
not our,
Not our permit.
it's not our special permit.
So I think they've completed everything on our special permit, I would think. I mean, not,
I went and looked at the site, and it looks, I saw it in the rain on Saturday, and it looks very good. It was free draining, it was, the water was running where it was supposed to run. It looks as good as what I anticipated in the plans.
Bob, are the signage all in place, are the
Yep,
parking spaces striped and
Yep.
all of the
Yep.
the directional signs in and out and so forth, it's all
Yep.
in place?
yes.
so, if you would like to come up and speak, or ask us a question, or maybe give us some finality to what you understand.
Diego Bernal for Coastal Healing. Thanks again for the patience. 4 years, 8 months into it. I appreciate that. Yes, it's a confusing situation. If you're confused, imagine us. We're super confused. We just want to make sure that we're moving forward. The big thing that we were trying to figure out was what was left to do. When we came for our last temp CO before you, the committee, we had some, landscaping, a top coat of the pavement, sidewalk, ADA ramps, and we got all those major things done. So to answer one of the questions that came up, as far as the site goes for the planning board, we're done. The only thing that is missing is that Mass DOT, which became very confusing between the town having the utility permit and then our curb cut permit. And so after a lot of confusion, it was really nice to have Mass DOT representative coming out last Friday, met the highway department, SW Cole sent George out there. So it was nice to figure out, okay, what's here, what's happening. And we worked it out, we're all in the same page with that, and that is the only thing that's missing is that resurfacing of the utility on the highway side. But on our side, we are complete. I know Mr. Soares has been there. Mr. Dater went out there. Anybody's happy to visit, we'll give them a tour. But we're reaching to that point where we're ready to go. Hence, the confusion is if we get a temp CO, we're gonna be coming back, you know, because the Mass DOT patching resurfacing, we're stuck again in a conundrum because we're a really small project for any of these state-approved contractors, and they don't want to touch us right now. They're like, "Oh, we'll get to you. We'll get to you." And it's getting to be November, and then Mass DOT at some point will say no more work until, you know, we reopen in April, and then we're going to be like, "Oh, you know." So we just want to make sure we're all on the same page. You know where we're at. That we're done with all the site work, and so.
So I think you're asking us to do something that we don't have the capability of doing. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but we don't have the capability of issuing a CO. We don't do that.
Correct. And
So-
why we always come to you first is whenever we talk to the building commissioner. He says that he did his last inspection last week. He's happy with everything, but he tells me point blank, I will not sign anything off until the planning board tells me I can do so. And so that's what we have been always coming to you first for reviews, so that you can then recommend to the building commissioner, yes, do the temp CO or whatever. So again, I'm trying to follow that pathway where he's telling me to meet with you guys. I'm trying to give you all the evidence, making sure you have your insurance review.
So
and
I
everything.
guess the question for you is if we recommend to the building inspector that you've completed everything that we've asked of you, with the exception of finishing up the utility thing from Mass DOT. Is it Mass Highway or is it?
Mass DOT.
Mass DOT is the paving on the,
Mass
over the
DOT.
patches.
So, you've seen it, and you've seen it, I haven't seen it,
Yep.
except in the picture. If we recommend to Ralph that they've done everything that we've asked, and the only thing left is something from Mass DOT, is that okay with us to do? I know that we have always tried to make sure everything is complete, but open it up to the board.
Again, I did visit the site, and, I mean, it looks everything's as per plan. I do have a little bit of a concern over the street opening permit, only, and it's nothing against you guys and how it happened, is because we're actually, I mean, I know it's a mass highway permit, but it's still in our name. So basically, if something were to happen and that trench settled in the middle of the night, we don't have mass highway sign off, we're on the hook. We don't have a bonded contractor that did the work. So I just think, I have no problem with if the board wants to give an occupancy permit, just as long as we have some kind of surety and guarantee, and I really would like to see it before November. I know what you're up against. Another thing that we might be able to do is you know, the contractor that just awarded the Chapter 90 work for the town, you could possibly talk to him, have him give you an estimate, and they're getting ready to do some work in town before the plant's close. Maybe he could help you out where he's already in town.
Is he a registered?
Yes,
person?
yes.
Yeah, we're open to anything. It's been a struggle to try to get, I had 3 contractors last year that could do it, and this year they said absolutely, they just can't touch it. And my biggest concern is that, you know, I can come to you and say, this is a contract that's gonna do it, but we also wanna finish it off, we wanna get everything done. But if the weather changes and then we're shut down, I'll be back with you to say, hey, we haven't gotten this done, so I'll make sure we're all on the same page with that, but I'll be.
We might even have some issues with Mass Highway, because I believe there's timelines on that stuff to be done.
Yeah, and
It was
what was,
probably before the season last year, November. So we might get into some issues with that too.
What was really good about the meeting we had on Friday with the highway department and everybody else was that the Mass DOT representative was there, the inspector was there, and he looked at the work. He actually corrected some things in the permit that this shouldn't be done the way the permit says, because they're not gonna work. So we told our engineer, this is what you need to do, because I'm gonna inspect it, which was awesome. That's exactly what we wanted to. And he said, I understand what you're up against, the same thing. If you don't get it done this year, I am not worried about that. This is gonna hold fine. I will have no objections in, again, if you can, we all wanna get it done, but if you can't, coming back early next season. So that is good, and we can always call him up and he can talk to you, the board, about that. But we are trying to get it done. I just don't know if it's gonna happen this year, but we're gonna try as hard as we can. And then I'm with you because of Ralph, making sure Ralph is getting the guidance that he's asking me for you guys to provide for him.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be prepared to make a motion that we prepare a letter to the building inspector that says, based on our observations and the inspection report by S.W. Cole dated September 29, 2022, that the work on site indicated in our special permit has been completed to our satisfaction.
If that is a motion, then I'd second it.
That was a motion.
That is a motion.
So, any more discussion? Okay.
And that, just, and I think we would just, almost parenthetical, because it isn't our jurisdiction, say that the only remaining work is really the MassDOT the patching of the utility work in the state highway. That's not something, that's not,
Possibly be under the selectmen, because they're the road commissioners, that's who pulled the permit on that.
well, it's, I don't think we should say
Have
who's,
some liability.
who's responsible, but that's the work that's remaining. And I would add that the only remaining work is out on the state highway,
But not part of our permit.
not part of our special permit.
So that'll be part of the letter, so,
Yep.
okay.
What about for a surety release?
Do we have surety?
Yes, we
I
do.
don't- We do?
We do? Amy,
We do.
how much
Yes,
do we have?
it was a check for $50,000,
Oh.
a few months back. I don't know with the amount of, money that's been used from that account, but we do have surety.
So we have 50,000 or thereabouts.
Yes.
So, I think we need to, before we vote on this, think about amending the motion so that we retain, even though we're saying that it's complete, we're gonna retain the surety until they can show us the document from MassDOT that they're done. Just to protect the town, I mean.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just one last thing, if you could please guide me with a potential contractor, that would be really good, so we can have an option. That'd be, Mandy, we can talk.
I think, and I had talked to Chris about it too,
Okay,
because they were also working on something else for the board. And he was gonna look into it, but like if tomorrow we gave him a call and said, hey,
I'll just call
we can
Chris
see
up
if he
tomorrow,
can-
okay?
if he can put us on our schedule, give me a price.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, I agree. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Stacy Lane, File number 22-002C, SW Cole Construction Observation Report. Stacy Lane is, if you recall, the subdivision that kind of really queued around off of Fisher Road. Had a lot of stormwater stuff and everything, and apparently there are 2 foundations and 1 foundation with construction started on the framing before they finished all of these other things like stormwater and the roadway first course. And we were alerted to this when SW Cole went out for inspection, that construction had already started on 3 of the lots, or I think 7, 9, and I don't know which other one it was. But there's also pictures in your iPad about the stormwater infrastructure being put in, which SW Cole was going on, I think, for a while, a daily basis to inspect its installation. And who made this little map with the red stuff on it? Is this from Cole?
Let me see. Yes, that was cool. The black and white map, page 53.
Yeah, that. So, I know Amy's been in touch with Ralph, and he acknowledged receipt of her email with regard to what's happening out there. And Amy, can you fill us in with any conversation you had with him on this?
Sure, I haven't had actual conversation with him, just emails that he's
If you can hear us, you're frozen again. So,
I think we're gonna have to switch to the speaker.
okay.
While we're waiting for Amy to get unfrozen, is there surety on this?
I think it was, so far, I think it was on release of lots. So I'm not sure. Have to wait for Amy to come back. Maybe you know, Nadine? Do we have surety on this, or is it?
I don't recall.
And if it's with release of lots, how is he conveying lots and starting construction? It's,
Release of lots, you have to come before us.
The road's supposed to be in first before
Yeah.
those lots.
And that was what, in the report, that we said that,
Amy, are you on the phone? Can you hear us?
Here, yes, can you hear me?
yes. How do you increase the volume?
I think you could just speak into that, that should be big enough.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know what you caught that, but Ralph is aware of what's going on Stacy Lane. He's been in touch with Derek from SW Cole. There's substantial framing and a foundation on lot 7. A foundation is installed on lot 9. And, I guess Derek had talked to the site contractor on site last week, and the site contractor was unaware that binder should be installed during
do we have surety?
On Safety Lane,
Yes.
I believe we do.
Or do we have, you know, that they're gonna go on release of lots, one by one?
I mean, according, I don't know if they can't release any lot at the moment, they have a covenant that's active on there.
So the covenant is active and they haven't asked for any release, so how are they?
How are they getting building permits?
Right.
So,
Do we have building permits, Mr. Chairman?
I don't know. So, I think we ought to recommend to Ralph that they order a cease and desist until we get this straightened out. Because this is how the town gets in trouble, when all these things go on and people get houses that don't have roads, so.
Right. Do you need a vote for that, or?
I guess we could, I think it would be more definitive for Ralph if we said, hey, this is crazy. So I would entertain a motion to send a letter to Ralph requesting a cease and desist.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roads before houses.
You better have stormwater done, you better have the roads done.
Yeah.
How else are you gonna get there? Then they're gonna get the house done and try to convey the house
Right,
with no roads. It's crazy.
right.
Sounds very familiar.
Yes, it does, unfortunately. Okay, public hearing, for Westport Horizons Development Corp., Oak Ridge, file number 06-001 SBA Major, continued from February 22nd, 2022, April 19th, and June 28th from 2022. The applicant has requested a continuance since there has been no resolution with the homeowners over additional items that need to be completed. So do we have an idea of when they'd like to, oh, we do,
Yeah.
to December 13th at 6:15,
You want a motion?
please.
Mr. Chair, at the request of the applicant, I move to continue the Westport Horizons Development Corporation Oak Ridge to December 13th, 2022, at 6:15.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Uh,
Mr. Chair, can we have
I
some brief
think you were here for this?
Yes, sir.
That's what I
I'll be
want to
back.
say, like, how many times can we, because Martin's come to this, and, I mean, can we put some kind of,
I think that we should say that, you know, this is it, December 13th.
That, you know, not getting it done and just asking for continuances. So it's over, get a plan, and then come back with something new.
Well, this is to resolve the issue of no
Yep.
sidewalks.
Yep.
in Oak Ridge, so. Okay.
Well, in addition to that, we put these, let's say that we grant the continuance to December 13th, we put it on we have it on the agenda, and some other things might come along and they might be pushed off because we think it's gonna be on the agenda.
Right.
And then in the last minute, they come in, ask for a further continuance. So,
So we don't have to grant continuances, do we?
No, we could, open the hearing and we could decide they
We
gotta
can
put the
decide.
sidewalks in and
Yep.
that's it.
All right.
So Amy, if you could, contact them and tell them that, you know, they've gotta perform on the 13th, or we're just gonna decide.
All right, that's fine.
They've had their last continuance.
Sounds good, I'll let them know.
Okay, next up is the 6:30 public hearing for 309 Gifford Road, Carvalho. File number 22-004 SP-CD-FF. This is continued from September 6th, September 20th of this year, A request by the applicant to consider the special permit applications of Joachim and Sandra Carvello for property located at 309 Gifford Road, Westport, Mass. Assessors map 31, lot 6, pursuant to Westport zoning bylaw, section 8.5, special permit for common driveway, and section 8.6, special permit for flexible frontage, requesting approval to reduce otherwise applicable frontage requirements on a public way in exchange for a corresponding reduction in development density in the construction of a common driveway servicing 2 residential lots.
How's it going? My name's Josh Cavallo. I also have my brother Corey Cavallo. We're the ones trying to build on this property. My parents, Sandra and Joachim Cavallo, bought the property with the intent that we could all kind of build houses together and live on the property and farm it. So we're building their house now and propose to build our houses on what we have planned now. So we came here a few months ago in June, proposed a preliminary plan for review for a road and 2 houses. So we came to ask your opinion on what we should do. On that time, we got advised that we should do flexible frontage. So this is where we came up with this plan. We took this plan, submitted it, consulted it to field engineering. They had comments. We received it a week before the meeting, so we had to address all the comments, which we did our best we could. We addressed everything, came back, addressed it again. And then pretty much, as of right now, we received an email this morning saying that they had no comments. We addressed all the issues that they had. I know that the last meeting, we weren't ready for it, but it was brought up, and then there was a conversation, you guys had comments about it. I know part of the comments, you guys had issues with shape of lots, but we tried to do our best where we kept everything as where we thought. There is walls, retaining walls there now, that we try to preserve as much as we can to keep it to where it is now. And then again, Amy advised us that it was not needed for us to be here. If needed, we would have been here to address any concerns.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gordetsky, if you could move that thing over here. I think it's probably the same as being projected on the screen. So I don't.
I have yield plan too. I prepared a yield plan showing.
Yeah, I think we have that, unless you've changed anything. I think we have everything. So if you could put that over here so it's not blocking anybody's view.
Keep it coming. We need to be able to see the whiteboard.
Good night.
Much better.
You can work with the board.
Yeah.
So if you could show us on the board here what you're talking about. I think you should start with a yield plan.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the yield plan. I did something fairly fast. On the yield plan, meeting all the standards, we can get 4 lots. If I had a little bit more time, I believe this property can easily be subdivided into 5 lots, extending the road. But be it as it may, yield plan shows 4 lots. The applicant proposes 3 lots. That's for himself and for the family. That's the yield plan. It meets all your requirements and full compliance with your subdivision regulations, zoning requirements, uplands, frontage areas. Everything is there. So
And so the yield plan, it shows the bordering vegetated wetlands,
yes,
and then it shows the wetlands line?
this is bordering vegetated wetlands. This line is a riverfront.
Was the
area.
screen, okay.
That's the stream. The
Okay.
land was approved by the Conservation Commission, so that's good.
So the yield plan shows, all 4 lots have adequate frontage and area in upland?
Correct. even the house, existing house is in compliance with zoning, the way it is, the way it's designed. And it's all the setbacks from, side and rear.
Okay. So let's go on to your plan.
So we're proposing two lots, I guess, I learned at the last meeting, but the way I understand it, there was questions about this one, but there is a pathway going all the way to the highway, existing path, and it's surrounded by the stone walls, that's all the way, to the stone highway. So this lot is designed in a way to accommodate this pathway, and it's bounded by the stone walls. So I believe I will put a note on the plan, property line by stone wall. That's one lot, and then this is those are two flexible frontage lots, actually three. It's three lots, one containing existing house, and they meet all the lots, meet all the calculations were provided, they meet all the requirements. And there is a shared driveway, with a 45-foot radius cul-de-sac. This cul-de-sac was approved by the fire department. Roadway width is 20 feet. I made provisions with the easements for, if approval is granted, for the Board of Health, stormwater management features, and that stuff you can probably see in the next page. And that's pretty much it. And
So the lot, trying to figure out what number this is.
It's B.
Lot 103B.
103.
The frontage comes from the circle?
No
Wait,
frontage is
frontage.
coming from the circle.
It's reduced frontage
You're right.
application.
Okay, so there's enough frontage on here, you don't have to worry about this pinch point.
The reason why I showed these distances and dimensions on the lot is for the easement purposes.
That's only an easement.
That's the easement. Frontage comes from the, as Mr. Bello said, from the reduced frontage
On the road.
On a different road. This is just easement delineation.
Okay, so you're not gonna build that?
No. There are only, if you look at the next page, it shows location of the houses, driveways, grading. That's what's going to be. This is the easement line. This is just the easement line and driveway. So each lot has rights to do whatever is required on the opposite side of the lot, so there can be no controversies. But the frontage is here for this lot, here for this lot, and this is the frontage for the existing house. That's all.
So, maybe I'm dense, but if it's a shared driveway, why do you have a cul-de-sac?
Okay, that's fire department requirement. They wanted to have actually 75-foot turnaround. But that
On a cul-de-sac, but this is a shared driveway.
yes.
I required it. I wanted it so that we didn't have somewhere to back up the driveway, so I don't have to back into Nicky Road, I had somewhere to turn around, and then we just give everybody easy access. If somebody were to come, it would just make it easier.
But the fire department sent us a comment that he wanted at the end of the shared driveway, he wanted a circle of 70-foot radius, and we provided 45. And he agreed, the fire department agreed with this proposal.
I don't think it's required.
I think it might have been a little confusion with the fire department. too.
Right. They think it's a subdivision.
Probably not, I agree with you, but he put it in writing, so Mr. Cabral had to go and
Which is my view is that we would like it if it was at least 20 feet wide, so that if someone were to come in, cars would come in, he would still be able to come in. Again, the cul-de-sac is just something that I would have liked doing it, just so, again, if I would have a driveway, I would have to back into Gifford
theirs and my other neighbor's name, I think it's a good idea to have that.
Both neighbors, you can,
Access.
live on side of each other. Every truck goes in, they back up into the street, it's a hassle. So I'm trying to avoid that now, planning wise, so that I don't have the same issues.
It is and I like the proportion between this and people in the land. It's not a lot.
And your plan is to have it paved? Is it required that it be paved?
That's, well, not necessarily, but Mr. Carvalho wanted to pay it.
Just maintenance, there's a few houses up the street that have all gravel driveways, every time they plow, it just makes a mess on your road. So just one thing where I'm trying to make everybody happy, we're not pushing millings or gravel onto the road, and it's maintenance, cleaning snow, I plow for the town, for the city, it just makes it easier just to maintain.
So it's gonna be a 90-foot diameter, 45-foot radius,
Yes, yes.
and there's not
We
gonna
were
be an
trying to keep it 35, but it was just one thing where.
We tried 35, but we received the comment, 70.
Yeah, it's a shared driveway, so we didn't have to address it, or even if it's not development, or.
From my perspective, if you wanted 35-foot radius, you could do that. It's not a requirement of a shared driveway bylaw, and it's not a subdivision road. It's a shared driveway. And you can do what you want, but, I mean, the fire department always wants bigger and bigger. 35-foot radius is 70 feet across. I mean, that's like a basketball court already. And 45 feet is 90 feet. I mean, it's huge. I mean, corner to corner, this room is 35 feet, 40 feet?
Yeah, I think we
I
just
mean,
brought it,
so you're talking about-
45 is just being total.
You're talking about twice the distance between this corner and that corner, all paved. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of,
Lot of impervious surface.
it's kind of nuts, but
I always thought it was going to be 45 as a total, not being 45, 45, 90 total, just be 45, just turning around. If you guys want it,
what he's drawn is 45-foot radius,
radius.
but that means it's 90 feet across, right?
All you're required to have is 20 feet,
Yeah.
and, you know, the whole idea of this is to minimize the impacts and all that kind of stuff. We, you know, if you, I don't have any difficulty if you want to pay for durability, that's understandable. But, you know, we're trying to, the goal isn't particularly to save you money, but we'd like to save the landscape.
We can shrink that down to a total of 50 feet as a complete circle, 45 feet as a total.
I mean, if you
I know you can pack around a truck easier than this, you don't need this.
Or did you consider grass in the middle? I mean, you know, if you put gravel and grass on top,
shrink
it's
the whole
all,
thing.
yeah.
That's the point, but you received a letter from the fire department.
I think he was confused.
No, just talk to him, he told, we did,
I think
we
he's
did
under,
think so.
I think he's under the impression this was a subdivision road.
Which we
It
told him.
It is not. It's
We-
not,
Email saying that.
it's not a road.
We told him it's not a road, we told him it's a private shared driveway. And the strangest thing is, once from my house, I called and I asked if they regulate the what's the length and width of the driveway, and some captain told me that they don't regulate any driveway, so they want us to get at least 10 feet so they can get ambulance in case of a heart attack. I don't know why this came in, but that's what it was.
The footprint of this turnaround is greater than the footprint of any of your houses. I mean, as Jim says, this is 45-foot radius.
Yeah.
And it's all impervious surface. And you can put the whole fire station on this cul-de-sac, not just a fire truck. So I think you could
We would shrink it.
really shrink it.
Correct.
And I think in terms of maintenance and plowing, as Manny said, you could put a grass island in the middle, but that's maybe harder to maintain. And the better thing is just to realize that what the fire department wants is a 20-foot wide street. And you think about turning 20 feet around, you don't need 90 feet diameter.
I was just, like I said, trying to go by the fire department.
Yeah, well, they would pave the whole thing, because that'd be really easy.
I was just trying to solve the problem that we need turnarounds at the back.
Turn it into the Dartmouth Mall, but that's not what you want to do.
So in situations like this, the special permit bylaw that we have for shared driveways it's a shared driveway. It's not a road, it's not a cul-de-sac. And it's supposed to be something that saves some of the landscape, as opposed to being paved. That's the intention of the bylaw. And the highway, the fire department, is well-meaning, but they don't have a say in this.
If we have to get rid of the cul-de-sac, I'm just gonna do a turnaround on my driveway, do a complete circle for a driveway, I'll do something, I'm just gonna be doing something so that there's turnaround. Like I said, he has the same issue, I have neighbors that turn issue, Amazon comes down, they back up, and it's just easier for me to have some way to turn around.
I have a circle on my driveway,
Yeah.
and I have, at one end of it, I have places where you can head in and park.
Yeah. I mean,
But, and I have a tree and grass in the middle, and a UPS truck, I just got a package from them on the way here. They come around, they come halfway around, then they back up, and then they keep on going. I mean, it isn't perfect, but it certainly, everybody who comes down there can get out of it. And I don't think you want a basketball court in front of your house.
Sorry about it, but. Alright, so we can address that.
So, if you're comfortable redoing that, I'd be happy to continue, or we could approve it based on that you're gonna change it, whatever the board wants. But you can come back, or and show us what you're really gonna do, or, I think that Mr. Taylor had some small questions about that you weren't really meeting the requirements by a couple of feet on some things. So maybe you could go over those so that we understand what those problems are.
Yes. I agree with the proof plan. Proof plan looks fine. There were 4 lots, therefore you're qualified for 3 lots. And in the zoning bylaw, they give you 3 examples: 150 feet of frontage, 75 feet of frontage, and 50 feet of frontage, which is the minimum. And you do have, and you don't have any of those.
No, I interpolate.
Yes, and you interpolate, okay, and I interpret, but it's exactly what you should do, which is the same thing I did. I didn't quite get your numbers, and I think, but given where and as an example, the lot A is 150,083 square feet, and according to my calculation, if you have a 60-foot frontage, it comes out to be 156,000 square feet that you require. But hear me out. This plan, I think, meets the intent, even if it doesn't meet the letter, and really the beauty of this plan is that it preserves the existing house and the farm and the laneway and all of that. And in the proof plan, the reason the proof plan works, but this doesn't quite work, and you might be able to juggle lines you know, just a few hundredths and you make it, so, I don't have a squabble with the plan. Because what it does is preserve all the existing stone walls, and those are things that the bylaw, want to have happen. So, I don't think we should try and force a plan that absolutely meets the letter of the law, but it screws up the existing home and the farm and all of that. So, for me, I think, the better public good here is served by, a plan that meets the intent of the law. And if there were a motion, I would approve it, and you could come back and fix the driveway or not fix the driveway, but I would strongly recommend that you don't build a 90-foot driveway. I live on a lane that's 12 feet wide, and the UPS truck goes up and down, and it's gravel, it goes up and down every single day. Now, he turns around in people's driveways, but that's the way it works.
I agree, we'll definitely, when they got first comment 75 feet, I thought,
Yeah, it's definitely not our requirement driving there.
oh, then we.
If I were to shrink the cul-de-sac in half, 45 as a complete circle,
Yeah.
and get that example, would that be?
You could do it,
what you want.
you could do a
I
20,
just want to have any concerns, I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
like that.
yeah,
it'd just
you
be
could
nice
do
to
a
have something
20,
as a
you could do a
turnaround.
20-foot wide road and do a T at the end and let the UPS truck
Yeah.
back around in the T.
So, Mr. Chair, you want a motion, or two motions?
Yes, please.
Hold on, let me get my crib sheet here.
You're gonna have to make it up, it isn't there.
I move to close the special permit public hearing for flexible frontage and common driveway for 309 Gifford Road, Westport, Mass.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so that's done. Then we have a couple of motions, and I guess we'll deal with the driveway in the second motion on the common driveway. So I move to approve the special permit application of Joaquim and Sandra Carvalho for property located at 309 Gifford Road, Westport, Mass. 02790, Assessors Map 31, Lot 6, pursuant to Westport zoning bylaw, Section 8.6, special permit for flexible frontage, requesting approval to reduce otherwise applicable frontage requirements on a public way in exchange for a corresponding reduction in development density subject to findings and conditions.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. And then I move to approve the special permit application of Joaquim and Sandra Carvalho for property located at 309 Gifford Road, Westport, Mass. 02790, Assessors Map 31, Lot 6, pursuant to Westport zoning bylaws for a common driveway, subject to findings and conditions, with the exception that the cul-de-sac will be modified by reducing its area at least in half. Do we want to prescribe its design to 20-foot T, or do we want to say subject to approval of the town planner to achieve at least a halfway reduction? How do you want to do that?
I think the idea of subject to, now that we have a town planner,
Yeah.
let's make it subject to the approval of the town planner.
All right, so to achieve at least a 50% reduction in impervious service, subject to the approval of the town planner.
Second.
Just wondering, I mean, would it be, I mean, I don't disagree with, in principle, I just wonder, is it better to actually see what their product is? I mean, I know we've said the town planner will see it, but, we're voting on it. Is it better for us to have a,
Well, I think there are a couple of ways, Mark, that it might be done. I think it could be that this is a smaller circle, 45 radius, or it could be a T-shaped turnaround, and I think either one of those are gonna do the job. And I think that really is going to be a discussion between the proponent in terms of how he wants to do this, how he wants to take care of it, how he envisions the truck and coming in and out, how he's gonna plow it, and how Michael works with him on it. And I think that discussion, if they work that out, how they wanna do it, I'm okay with either one of them.
okay, well, I mean, Michael, once you get the plan from them and, you've looked it over and comments, I'd appreciate just being, given a heads up, cause I might wanna stop in, and just take a look at it myself for my own satisfaction.
Yeah.
I got a question for Alex. So prior to, the fire department's comments, the cul-de-sac that they had proposed, does that meet what we're saying right now? So that we could just,
Yeah, it was.
so we could see.
Prior to the fire department comments, it was twice as small, it was 45 feet.
So we could probably easily just condition that to be on the plan versus.
Well, we can say a
Michael and
maximum
fire.
of 45-foot diameter.
If you're good with that, or if you wanna.
Originally, when we came back in June, is what we had was a 45-foot circle.
Well, I think,
Just figure out what you want and get it to the town planner.
but it's gotta comply with the bylaw and on all the other respects, the width and the construction
Right.
and everything else. Yeah, I'm okay with that, so.
Because I'd like to make another comment too, about preservation of the old farmhouse and the laneway to the back. Because I remember the previous owner had a subdivision proposal that was to demo and cut around the back, and I think he would've got probably more lots than what you are.
I would knock that house on, you can get 5 houses.
And you guys are also farming, that buffer zone is a field.
Yeah.
And,
Well-
they got chickens over there, the family's, the father's kinda a little bit retired and he's selling meat, and I think it's a good thing for the neighborhood.
No, I think it is too. I think it's a great solution. I just don't like the big asphalt lollipop. So.
Put a
Okay.
chicken coop in the middle of it.
Right. Or a little grazing pasture.
Right.
For sheep.
No, I think it's a good plan. I agree with what Bob Daly said about, that it's about the intent more than it is the letter. So we congratulate you on this.
Yeah, and I agree with all of that too. I think the plan has a lot of merit and, does meet the intent of these bylaws. And I was just, suggesting that we have a chance to see what your final, proposal for this plan, for this lane is, given all the discussion we've had. But I'm comfortable with John's, suggestions and reasoning on this, so I'm fine.
Yeah, and after we vote, I think that we ought to have Amy and Michael make an appointment with the fire department and try to educate them on what a shared driveway is as opposed to a cul-de-sac. So, anyway, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I seem to have a different list of things here than you guys.
It was like you're flipping the page. Here's the real one.
So we enable,
So
Okay,
this laneway,
did we close both public hearings?
Yes, I think so.
With that one motion.
Yeah.
No, but
Okay.
you did the flexing frontage and the common driveway separately.
Okay, Amy, Assistant Planners Report?
Yeah, okay, all right, so I'm gonna begin with Mile Way. So George Mello, GDS consultant, believes that the surety amount, which is currently $89,890.72, that's the interest that's included in that figure from the $87,000 that was original. He believes that it could be sufficient to complete the project utilizing the town roadway paving contractor and the highway department as the workforce. George had requested some paperwork from me on highway, so I got that over to him today. And he just mentioned in his email that the planning board must take legal action for calling the held surety prior to any action by the highway department or the paving contractor.
So, who's telling you we need to take legal action?
George Mello was just saying that the planning board has to take the legal action to call in the held surety prior to any action by the highway department for paving.
Right, and George Mello is representing the Highway Department?
Yeah, for GDS consultants.
Okay. I agree. I think that it has to be something that we initiate, and it has to go to the Board of Selectmen, and they have to do whatever they do with town council to get it done. So, I think we need to start that process before more time goes by. So I would entertain a motion to suggest to the Board of Selectmen that we call the bond and have the town highway contractor and the town highway department do the work for the money that is available in the bond or in the surety.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we seize the cash surety that the town is holding for the work on the approved subdivision in the amount of $89,890.72 to be used because of the non-performance of the developer.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, so basically that's good. Basically what happened is the chapter 90, the price that chapter 90 came in at, they were able to do this. And when George went out there with Chris, they looked at the structures, cause they was talking some leveling on the structures. And it's just that they got an additional riser there, so they got to change out a riser, so they'll stay on leveling. And, so that's kind of where with George's, S.W. Cole's price, which is George's son,
So, yeah.
was a little higher. But when they came in, we got our actual numbers for this contract from the chapter 90, and it'll do it. And they can't do it until the spring, so we got time to get it done. So
Well,
it's
we have
kind of
time,
a good
we're
thing.
gonna take time to
Right.
go through this legal process. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's good news. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, do you want me to put that on do you want me to request that to be put on the Board of Selectmen agenda?
On
for
Monday,
the 11th?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and on that same agenda, I'll just go into Route 6. So Russell Burke with CSC Group provided a scope of work for the project of the rezoning of the Route 6 corridor in that business district along the corridor. And in an ARPA meeting for last week, it was given the okay to bring to the Board of Selectmen for approval for that money to be appropriated in the amount of $35,000. So that item is on the next select board agenda for next Monday to be voted on.
Okay, just to be clear, this is for the subcontractor that we have who is going to help us with the rezoning of the Route 6 corridor business district. Correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. also known as Russ.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so for the housing production plan, I called Liz Collins today, and she did confirm that on their 9/28 meeting last week, that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee voted to give the planning board the requested amount of $3,500 to cover the cost of the updated housing production plan. So I did reach out to Serpent this afternoon to let them know that we're gonna be moving forward. So we did have the contract amended to take out 40 hours of the Serpent help and replace it with $3,500. So the contract being amended already, I do believe all I have to do is have Jim Barnett sign off on that, and we can get going on that.
Okay, I think we've already voted on that previously, so I don't think we need to.
We did, yeah. I was updating you that it's a done deal where we're gonna get the money from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee.
Okay. And so, have you been in contact with Russ to tell him that we're almost there? We need to start?
Yes, I did. I did let, Russ know that we'll be getting on that train very shortly, which is the next step for the rezoning of Route 6.
Okay.
The MS4 annual report was due September 30th, so with the help of Kleinfelder, I did submit the annual report and all the attachments associated for the state and the DEP ahead of the deadline, so MS4 is taken care of for this year. That is done with for a couple months. We went over coastal healing, we went over CC Lane, and the last one, I wasn't there, unfortunately, for the Brookwood Solar site visit, but in my assistant planner's report, I just attached Derek's work observation PDF that for the apron, the cave apron.
Okay, three of us were at that meeting, and I think we probably all have a little different take because we were talking with different people at different times as we walked through. So, I don't know, either one of you want to update the rest of the board on what that was?
Pop star.
You know, the solar farm has, it has, you know, we have changed since we dealt with the solar farms. This is one of the solar farms that the solar arrays that we approved before we required the interim rough grading survey to come back to us to see what the grading would finally be like. And you can see the reason why we changed that while the site functions, it's got puddles everywhere. It's growing little wetlands, sedge communities, and it was supposed to be draining into these edge basins, which it does. But they were supposed to have pollinator grass species growing in between, so this open space would regenerate itself as a piece of habitat besides generating electricity. Generates electricity, okay, but because of these puddles and because of what they put down, we don't even know what they put down for grass seed, but it definitely isn't a pollinator field mix. Or if it is, it didn't take it all, because there is none of that showing. And the detention basins aren't quite properly graded, because while the structures are all there and they look big enough, they're too low, the water doesn't run out, so you have standing water in these areas, which again is growing will grow a wetland community, which isn't necessarily bad, but the performance compared to the plan is really is really quite different. And I think the measures that we've taken subsequent to require interim submissions to us to see what it's like after they clear the sites, and to reduce the size, the overall size. All of those are really going to be to the good for the quality of these arrays. So, you know, and I think we should expect that the solar array companies are focused on generating electricity and not focused on doing the site work. It's all workable, it's all passable, all the elements that were supposed to be there are there, but the actual physical quality is poor.
I agree with my colleague. Some of the other issues, I mean, there was some changes along the way that they made, and I believe some of the corrections still aren't up to standards that we have, like the access. I mean, they raised the culvert, none of the slopes 2-to-1, the guardrails probably need to be extended. I mean, I think they got a lot of, the as-built that they submitted is really inadequate to even make a fair assessment of what needs to be fixed. And as far as like the pollinators, I mean, I think aren't they required to do that? Didn't they get some kind of credit?
Yes.
So,
Well, we require them to do.
I know we do too, but I think they might have some kind of state requirement or federal requirement. I mean, there was something, I had heard something about that on another project with the person that came in to do the planting, and I think they get some kind of incentives for pollinators to get. So, I mean, it definitely, I mean, where do we go from here? They're making electricity, we're having trouble. They promised us to put that apron in the spring, and it's still not paved when we come by here.
But they're getting ready to,
Yeah.
you know, to pave that, but it's and also, we all live here, we know what it's like to dig in the ground here, and you know, we should think about, what are you gonna do with the 11 million boulders you pull up? You know, and you start to do 20 acres, you know, and you know, they're really stuck with them. It isn't as if they're building anything in which they can run a crusher plant and you know, and use the material. So they're just sitting on the side of the road. They're using them as protectors of pull manholes and stuff like that. And the rest there, you know, they're sort of, they're just piled at the edge of the site.
And I think that's another thing that's changing the topography. You know, that, the reason why we need to have them check it when we do the rough grading is they remove all those boulders, the topography's changed. Now the grade won't make it to the basin.
Right. So it's,
I mean, I think we're pretty confident it's not gonna happen on the next one, but we're kind of, I think we're gonna have trouble trying to, get this one finished.
But they need to get a CO because, the burrito people they need to get out of there. We've just asked them for $150,000 in surety. They're gonna want that back, whoever pays it. And, they're gonna do a existing conditions plan, not existing, but, as built.
Is the electricity turned on?
oh yes, it's running.
So, I wonder if they build the surety into their cost of doing business, whether that is in fact leverage.
I am sure that they put some kind of surety. One of the existing, if you recall, wanted to get their surety back in exchange it for a bond. I can't remember which one that was, but,
There was
That's
the,
Turtle Way.
yeah, the French company.
yeah, Toodle-Way. And, we said no. So, I think they're the ones that had, trees growing up through the property. We wanted to spray those trees, and I think we let them do it once. So, I mean, I think that this really goes to show that we need to investigate whether or not we have the legal right to require much larger surety.
Yeah, because the interesting thing if you don't give Coastal Healing or someone a certificate of occupancy,
Right.
they can't get occupancy and they can't get income.
Right,
But with these solar farms, as soon as they're plugged in, they're getting income. And you can't stop the income.
right.
And
It's-
at that point, the surety doesn't become as important
What,
because they're already getting income.
you mean they can plug in without, getting a CO first?
Well, they did,
Yeah.
they asked the building inspector if they could, connect, if the utility could connect to test it. But once they do that, that's it, it's connected.
Yeah.
So, and that's before they have a CO, before they have a temporary CO, before they have, a checkoff on the electrical, stuff.
So
It's
if you.
before everything.
If you, the issue is really that it's a different set, you know, our stuff is zoning, site plan, drainage, those types of things. The whole electrical, the whole purpose of the project and the whole purpose of generating electricity, we don't govern that. That is, you know, the wiring inspector goes out, this is all the National Energy Code. If what they put in for electrical equipment and the solar equipment and that wiring and those breakers and that connection to the grid, if that all meets those codes, the wiring inspector gives them a permit. Then they're connected. And then the sun is shining, they generate electricity, it's going out on the grid. Now, they do need, it isn't that they can ignore everything in a special permit, because these are, I think all of the ones we had are actually leasehold interests, that is, they're leasing the land from someone. I think the owner is expecting a payment, and that they don't pay until we get approved. So that's really what the pressure is. The pressure to finish the planning board's work, the zoning related work. That's so that they can settle up with the owner and start their lease operations.
But it's also that, like, Borrego, is the installer of the equipment.
Right.
And they can't get their sign off until we do a CO.
Right.
But they want out of there.
Yeah.
And, cause it's already been transferred to another owner who's leasing it from the property owner.
Yep.
But it's a strange business, but it is. But.
So it is definitely not like, if we gave a special permit to build a house, then you can't get in the house until it's there. It's not a special permit to build a house, and somebody else gave the approval, so they're generating electricity. But they do need to wrap it up, because they can't get paid. Even though they're generating electricity, they can't get paid
For the whole thing.
for the whole thing, for the big deal.
Do you need an action on this, Mr. Chair?
What about a timeline on that, though? If we're gonna get the surety, is this gonna be something that we're gonna hold out there until, we're not holding enough money to finish this job? Or are they gonna?
Well, I mean, how do we even finish a job like that? I mean, really, how would we contract with somebody to do it? I just don't know how this would all work, and I think that's why we need to do some investigation, what happens other places, because, other places require a demolition, bond, or whatever you wanna call it. And really, those bonds end up being very little, because you can recycle all that stuff. And like with My Way or with Gell's Way we've had, or any other place that we've had to call the bond, it's a real pain in the butt to do that. And so I don't know what we do, but I think we'd have to make it such that they really want that money back is what.
You want a communication to them that we would like a plan of how they intend to come into compliance with their plans by,
They have a whole list of things that
yeah,
we itemized, and they have committed to come back to us with a plan of what they're gonna do. And, also with the, as-built plans.
so they already have that.
They have that.
And what's the deadline on that?
They're gonna get it, they wanna get this stuff done before the snow flies, so.
Okay.
So they're incentivized to get it done, to meet
They-
our,
they
to
can't
meet
get
our
out of their-
approval.
They can't get out of their contract with the people who are buying it until they're done, and we're satisfied,
Yeah.
so.
And they don't, and the surety is not released until.
So,
But are they getting, so they post a surety, we give them a CO. Borrego sells it, somebody else is gonna,
they've already sold it.
They've already sold it. Apparently, there are big holding companies that just invest in this kind of this.
But installed basis, not.
Installed basis renewable energy.
So, we live and learn, we learn everything, learn something from everything we do. So, Amy, anything else?
No, that is all I have.
Okay, I'm gonna insert my own little report here. During the past week, the select board transferred the purchase, option to Buzzards Bay Coalition for the Petty property on Main Road, the 31 acres or so. And subsequently, we have, at Buzzards Bay request, applied for a $30,000 grant from from Buzzards Bay National Estuaries Project for saving space that is impactful to the watershed of Buzzards Bay. And I talked with Jim Hartnett before I did it. The deadline was last Tuesday, so there wasn't time to go before our board or the select board. But he said, yeah, you can sign it, so I did, and
So we have, meaning the planning board, or,
for the town, I
Okay.
signed the application for
Great.
for the grant, for $30,000. If it is approved, there'll be a local match, which Buzzards Bay will provide, and that's about $9,000 some odd dollars.
do you want a motion to ratify that or anything?
I would appreciate that.
I would move that we ratify the application to whoever it was for $30,000 for the saving of the so-called petty property.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we worded the application such that it isn't for saving, they're not going to put in conservation 31 of the 31 acres, but they're gonna put into conservation no less than 25.
Yeah.
So, there's a possibility of making a deal with the previous buyer for the house and
Right.
some land for some
Right.
small farm or horses. So I think that's a good thing. I don't remember if we've talked about the, response to DEP, but the, select board through Jim Hartnett, and us through myself and, the Board of Health has written a lengthy response to DEP's, suggestion that they're going to change Title V, and require the town of Westport to either have a 20-year comprehensive water management plan to denitrify, or to reduce the amount of nitrogen that we have to in the estuary of the Westport River watershed, or within 5 years, replace all, not replace, but to install denitrifying in all septic systems in the town, which would be,
Devastating
that's,
to the residents.
it would be really expensive for everybody. You're talking about $140 million worth of upgrades.
Now, what, Mr. Chairman, wasn't this something that, they were saying if we were considered an impaired estuary?
We are.
We are
We are.
considered? I thought we were good, though.
We're impaired, we have a TMDL from EPA and from DEP that says that, I think we're about 19% over the limit of nitrogen in the estuary.
So now our sewer plans, is that gonna help us with moving forward?
Yes,
Yes, absolutely. So I can copy you, or I'll give the copy to, the planning department and they can forward it to everybody. And it goes through a lot of different things and then ask questions, like, how are you gonna enforce this? You know? Gonna knock on somebody's door, close their toilet or what? But I think it's another incentive to do the water and sewer in Westport, because that will help us. And we are itemizing all that, saying that we've already applied for a grant, we're going after, money to do this. The West Branch past 2 years has looked okay. The East Branch is getting a little better, but, you know, who knows, it could have been the drought, or it could have been anything, but, you know,
Well, the drought's gonna help us on the stormwater end, so, I mean, I think
Right.
that's part of our problem. I think along with the sewer, we're gonna be addressing some of the stormwater.
well, that's what we also point out, I mean, it's the sewers on Route 6, the storm sewers are,
the real difficulty is if they were to adopt this amendment to Title V, then the enforcement mechanism really isn't, just like the present Title V, the enforcement mechanism isn't universal. That is, they don't send the environmental police to your home and, you know, that's why we still have cesspools in places. The enforcement is if you sell your home, then you have to bring it compliant. So, you know, if you think of, we've got 6,000 or 7,000 septic systems in the town. Let's say that, you know, each one costs $30,000 to do an upgrade. So someone sells their home, and next thing you know is 30,000 comes right out of the proceeds. Either they pay to put it in, or it comes off the sales price of the house. So if you multiply 30,000 times, 6,000 septic systems, you get a very big number. And compared to, you can sewer sewer and water all of Route 6 for less than $30,000. $30 million. I wish it was 30,000. $30 million. So you're looking at hundreds, something over 100 million versus, something in the tens of millions. They're all still big numbers, but is there a collective payment that you pursue grants and loans and that kind of activity versus, no, it's all an individual problem, and each individual takes a hit when they go to sell their house, so.
What about the other thing that they had said, I think you brought it up, Jim, about if the denitrification, level of the treatment changes, they can make it go to that too.
Right, no, so
You're gonna move
they
the box.
say in the proposed regulation that when everybody has to put denitrifying in every septic system, you have to use the best technology that's out there. So if there's one system that gets down to 5 milligrams per liter, everybody's gonna use that one. And how is that possible? What company is gonna have 6,000 of these things available for sale, of these brand-new ones that do the best job, and they're probably the most expensive ones? And how do you get engineered plans to put them in everybody's place? I mean, have you ever tried to get your septic system redone? It's a convoluted process. You gotta get a perk test, you gotta have somebody come out and dig a hole and see where the water levels are, what's there, how to put the tank out, to put the leach fields, do you have room for the leach field? It's,
You
So-
having to hire more Board of Health agents.
you need to hire a dozen. I mean, to do that in 5 years. But, I mean, I don't think that's ever gonna come to fruition, but
Well, we made a good argument against their action. We're waiting to hear, but we're still working on the soil and water at the same time.
Is there any update on the efforts to, design or engineer a shared system for the sewer
For the
system
lead?
for the lead?
Buzzards Bay had a proposal which was denied by, they applied for a grant from MVP, Municipal Vulnerability Program. And they declined to fund it. So we're looking for other sources, and we could use ARPA money to do that. The question is that the best use of our limited ARPA money? But
My feeling on that is, those individual nitrogen systems were designed for sections like that. Some of those systems, the sand filters the size of a truck, so you can fit them in there. I think the big concern out that way is the water.
well, it's both. So the issue for the individual ones, because sea level rise is coming, the ones on the street closest to the ocean, you really don't wanna start putting septic systems in there. So what they're proposing is to put it in the neighbor's property to the north of Bayside Restaurant, and they're good with that, to put the combined leach field. So I think what we're looking for is about $275,000 to do a complete engineer plan for the system. And then we'd have to go search for funding. But to me, it's a way to see if this works, because we have 13 or 14 of these little communities just around East
Right.
Branch.
Yeah.
And
Drift Road,
What do you do?
Horse Neck Road, both, yeah.
on both sides, I mean, and as Bob says, you drive down Drift Road and you think, isn't this a wonderful open space? You don't know that there's one house on the road, but there's 50 in the back. So it's really interesting, and that's why we had this big plan made out. There's the size of this table that shows the size of lots on it, and we should get that back. I don't know where it is.
To the planning department.
And, when we we do the next work session, we should spread it out. You can see
Yeah.
all these places. And, you know, I think the town has some responsibility to try to figure out a solution, because otherwise, the problems are just getting worse. Anyway, that's my report. I already talked to you about the meeting with all the legislators at the last meeting, so. Ben Thomas has come back with some suggestions about USDA funds and stuff like that, and how to do that. He's going to investigate USDA funds, but again, the census data that Michael has been going through to see if it reduces our overall eligibility for more funds by making a water district up there. I think there's ways to carve that water district of where it really would be, that would cut out some of the bigger lots, the newer subdivisions that wouldn't be touched by the water and sewer anyway. And I'm sure that those have a higher income level than the other places, so that might lower it. I don't know how much lower we have to get to jump a tier.
It was 85%, and so it would have to be drop below 80.
So it's not that far.
We'd have to be in the 50 to 80%. 50 to less than the 79,
Yeah.
9.
Yeah, 60 to 79.9 would be tier 2.
Yeah, but I think if we carve out the areas that aren't gonna be water and sewer, I think some of those areas are, might help
The difficulty is the census data isn't
that particular.
Right.
that particular.
Yeah, I can't get that fine grains to
Because
go.
we're
on the-
rural, they just cut the town
They chop it up in pieces.
right.
There's,
And if you look at the census data, when you look at Fall River, it's every few blocks, so you can, because this is a population tract. A few blocks in Fall River equals roughly the town population.
Okay, so I'm done. Correspondence?
Do you want to approve a bill, Mr. Chair, for a desk?
That was next on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Mr.
Sure,
Chair.
yes, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I note we have a bill from Quill .com for a desk totaling $1,702.51 for a town planner. Doesn't say there's a chair that goes with it or a computer or anything else.
That's coming.
That's coming? So he's gonna stand, I guess, for a while, not have anything to put on the desk, but so far, we got him a desk.
Right.
So I vote to approve $1,702.51 for a desk for our town planner.
I second that, even though I'm disappointed you didn't bring a desk from Ohio.
yeah,
I can't wait to see what a $1,700 desk looks like.
Is that just the desk, or is that
That
the,
was the desk.
that's not the
It's made of mahogany.
panels that go around?
That's coming next.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
you should have gone to Goodwill or something.
I would have been fine with that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
We did get him a computer.
Yes,
Who's got a computer? Okay, good.
and the chair.
And we got a temporary chair.
No, he built the chair
Built
today.
the chair today?
Oh, it came in.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have the bill yet.
No.
Okay, correspondence. We have a notice from ZBA. For a detached accessory apartment. We have a copy of a letter for denial of Nadu tree service for a building permit. This may or may not come before us as a site plan, but I don't know. He's denied the application. And I don't have it here, but the Montessori school change of use, James Long, page 66. I don't have the page 66.
No, I don't know why I didn't,
Because I
nope,
picked
I
up
don't
mine
have it
earlier.
either.
It's in a separate sheet here. It's in the back.
I don't have it.
Yeah, me either.
Just Mark.
The question I had is that it says here the building will be used in the request for change of use. The building will be used for storage / recreational purposes. And I thought this was a moving company or something that was gonna be using it for storage only. I don't know what the recreational purpose would be.
So, yes, I know. I'm just reading the letter first, so, there's a letter from Ralph Souza to Williams, Quinton, and O'Leary, who I assume are attorneys. The property in question was previously in an educational group and has since been purchased by McCady LLC, one along with Captain Mark Brisk. I, along with Captain Mark Brisk, have visited the building and there will be no substantial changes to the building. The building will be used for storage / recreational purposes. The structure and layout of the building is to stay the same. A building permit is required. There is no problem with issuing a building permit for this project. And this is dated yesterday. So, Mr. Long, do you have something to add to this correspondence?
I found out I was going to get the correspondence, so I figured I'd come to answer any of the questions. In regards to the building, as you know, the building's used to be the Montessori for like 20 years, and then it was abandoned for about 2, give or take. The church put it up for sale. I found out about it, and I purchased it. I'm going to put, just like my other buildings down the street, it's going to be household goods storage, and then outside on the pavement will be, like I have at the other facility, parking for RVs on the pavement. Nothing's going to change inside. What's happened in the back, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, in the back, a lot of people went to school there. It was used as a gymnasium for the Montessori, but it used to be the cafeteria. So when you're looking at the building, the storage in the front is going to be all in the front. And then in the back, the cafeteria area, that's where we put the recreational when you were asking about it. One of the police officers in town was involved heavily with batting cages up in the Boston area. He's very familiar with it. He approached me probably 6 months to a year ago because of all the properties I've had, if I were aware of anything that he could put batting cages. It's Officer Medina. He's got a lot of contacts in regards to with the batting cages. He knows what he's doing. So he wants to put batting cages in the backs for the kids. If you're not well aware, right now in this area, the batting cages are all closing in Fall River on Plymouth Avenue. That one's shutting down after 20 years. So he's kind of hitting at the right time. When I purchased it, I wanted to pull a building permit. And then Ralph said to me that it would have to come before you guys because it was a change of use. So I kept saying, I want to get a building permit. I want to get a building permit. So finally he said, why don't you send me a letter? That's why I had my attorney send a letter to the town to do it appropriately. And then I asked Ralph to address it appropriately to the board. The property in question is staying the same. It's going on a tax register. Never went on a tax. It hasn't. He got no taxes since 1960 because it was owned by the church. Basically, I cleaned up the front. I purchased it. It got broken into 4 times by children or whoever. They spray painted the inside, graffiti. They did cult activities in the gymnasium. It's documented. Police department came, took fingerprints. We ended up repainting the inside, getting all the graffiti done. I since have put cameras throughout the whole building. If you've gone by, I've done all low-lying LED lighting. I cleaned up the front, took down no trees, cleaned up the brush, and put a rock down to keep the debris coming up so you can see in. When you drive by now, you can see in straight into the building to protect it. Since I've done all of this, I've had no problems. So what I'm asking is to give me a building permit so I can build out there's going to be no structural changes in it. I'm changing the heating system to green. The energy, I'm getting rebates. It's all been redesigned. All the lighting inside, we've already changed all that. It's all energy efficient lights in the building, including outside, all LED. So now, basically, I think I've talked enough. Just to give you a quick excerpt of what's happening with the building.
Okay, we don't have anything in front of us to decide or to opine on. All we have is correspondence, and this is in correspondence. So, if it were to be a site plan review or something like that, you'd need to make an application for site plan review. And that would,
In question to that, Jim,
so
I'm asking if I have to have site plan review, because I don't know if I have to. I'm not making any changes. The square footage numbers, if I was putting an addition on, I understand the town bylaw. If I put an addition on, I would have to go before site plan review. So what I'm asking is that I don't have to go before site plan review, and I ask if I can get a building permit, because I'm not changing anything with the building. That's what I'm before you for. I'm not, it's simple. I mean, I sent a letter to see if I needed site plan review, and I'm asking, why do I need site plan if I'm not doing anything to the building?
Well,
I'm basically doing
That's
inside.
the wrong question to ask, Mr. Lyon.
Okay, I'm asking.
The question to ask, why do I need site plan review if I'm working on the site? See, we don't do anything with buildings.
Okay,
We don't go inside buildings, if it is, the only time we get involved in looking at buildings is if you're proposing to build one, and you came and submitted a plan to us that showed a building. If you buy an existing building and you're not doing anything to it, and you're not changing the site, then you wouldn't come to us.
that's what I'm asking, so, and I understand
Are
exactly.
you changing the site?
No, I'm not. Basically, the bylaw in the town says if you're putting on an addition, square footage, and Manny, you can help me with that, because I've talked to you, I called you. It says if you're going to put, like you just said to me, if I was going to put an addition onto this building, absolutely I would have to have site plan review, absolutely. But I'm not putting any addition on, and I'm not doing.
Just
Okay.
listen for a moment.
Okay,
You, for instance, if you decided to put a new driveway in, you're not changing anything in the building, but let's say you were gonna put the Montessori school back in, you did nothing, you just put people in there. If you put a new driveway in, matter of fact, if you put a new driveway in, it's a state highway, you need a permit to do that. But, it's the work that you do on the site that requires site plan approval. It's not the work you do on the buildings. So if you're, and I don't know what you're doing. I know I heard what you said, but I don't know if there are some ancillary driveways, you're paving different things, you need to cut bigger overhead doors in the building. I don't know I don't know what the proposal is. But if you begin to work on the site, then that triggers a site plan review. Working inside the building we don't have any involvement in that. You can't come to us, we wouldn't know what to say if you came to us. We don't have any advice to give the building inspector. That's strictly the building inspector's job.
okay, I understand.
So I don't know, if you're trying to fix any of the stormwater on the property, if you're trying to change the location or the way the driveway works, or basically anything on the site can trigger driveway or a curb cut permit from the state highway department. So
Yeah, I don't wanna go there. It'll take, I
I'm
get
just
it,
telling you what I understand.
I get it.
I understand if you're doing anything on the site, because it's on a state highway,
Mhm.
anything that you do may trigger a curb cut, permit or review by them, and maybe Mandy knows more about that than I do, but.
So Ralph's giving you building permits already?
What's that? No.
You don't have
And
any?
I've been trying to get a building permit, and then I'm trying to do what is right. He basically said that to come before you guys. So, listening to Mr. Dela, if I don't touch anything on the outside of this property, and I'm just doing work on the inside of that property, then that's the way I'm gonna leave it right now and get the inside built up and get the batting cages open. Because, I'm listening to you loud and clear, loud and clear. And that's what I'm gonna do.
So is the batting cages gonna be inside?
Inside, everything's inside.
And is there parking where that's gonna be around the back, or
There's-
do you have to put?
There's tons of parking. There was 80 kids going to that school, okay? I'm not changing anything on the outside, okay? We're at the low density. I'm lucky if I see 5 people a day with my storage. As far as him with his batting cage, I think there's gonna be, it's indoor batting cages, so I think it's like 8 batting cages, I think. It's like 6 in the main area, and then I didn't even take down the stage. There's gonna be 2 up on the stage. That's where he's gonna put it to, because I didn't wanna take down the stage. I'm like, I don't wanna take down the stage. So he's gonna put 2 up on the stage, then he's gonna have another 6. And I don't know if you've ever been to the batting cage, it's all nets. And then you get into the net, and you're in a segregated net the size of, maybe the size of that table. And you got a person that pitches to him, and then you got the next one over. So I think there's like 6 on how that shows his design. Then he lays down AstroTurf and doesn't even touch the floor.
So, you know, in my previous life, I had a warehouse in Fairfield County, Connecticut. In the same warehouse building that had batting cages. And so I know what they look like. I don't have any problem with you putting them in. But the impact on parking, because a lot of people have birthday parties with 20, 30 kids, and you've got 20, 30 parents there with cars. I don't know what the parking is like there, but you just have to be aware that, you know, a batting cage is an attractive thing for people with kids, and they're gonna have birthday parties and lots of kids there at once. And a lot of times with hardly anybody. But there'll be times when
The
there's.
back section of that area, where I don't know if you ever went to anything there, but my kids went to school there, and when you pull in on the right side, that's gonna be all of theirs in the back area. There's tons of parking. The only thing I'd probably do is probably reline it. You bring up a good point. If I line it, people don't know where to park. Some of the lines are kind of dark and stuff, so I probably have to reline it. As far as parking, there's paving all the way around the back, all the way around the back of the building, into the back section. There's a lot of parking.
So the only thing I noticed, I mean, it could be that I was driving by, and maybe it's already, it was there before, but there appeared to be along the shoulder of 177 American Legion Highway, a new almost drainage ditch or something of that nature.
No, we were gonna
That's
stop,
new-
we were gonna
new
think,
riprap in it?
we were thinking about putting another way to come in, and we just stopped it, because when I was told that if we did anything on the outside, we'd have to come before you, they said, so we're not doing it. I said, we're just gonna stop, so I didn't do it. Because I wanted to try to get open. Junior Medina, he said I'm gonna give him 2 months free to get started. And he's chomping at the bit. He's trying to beat the person in Fall River when they close. I said, Junior, I'll do my best. And then the same thing with the storage right now. I'm trying to put more storage up there because I'm just growing my facility. And I got a clean facility. My facility is 9 to 5 Monday through Fridays and 9 to 2 on Saturdays. I'm not 24-hour access like other storage facilities. I run a pretty tight ship. What I did do there, I got a camera system in there right now, inside and out, protecting my interest because of what went down with the
So,
vandalism.
Mr. Long, could you tell me, so we can make an informed decision, what are you getting a building permit to do
To build out the inside for the batting cages and storage.
in storage? So,
And if I do anything on the outside, I will come back to this board, give you a site plan review, exactly what I think I wanna do. Because I do have some things I wanna do come springtime, and to enhance the property, but I won't do that this time to try to get open. Because the weather's gonna come in, and even with the heat systems right now and the building permits, I wanna get heat to the building. Because
So-
that has a very antiquated heating system that was changed 20 years ago, but there's a furnace in there the size of that table that I'm not turning on. I've already had it redesigned. We're gonna be putting a new state-of-the-art system in there for dehumidification, air conditioning, and heating. And I'm doing it with rebates from Mass Save and everything else.
Alright, so, the question about coming for site plan review, I believe Ralph, the building inspector, to issue you a building permit for what you wanna do, he actually is, so you have a configuration, kinda like when a car lot comes in, and they go before a selectman and they get a parking lot plan, and they come for us. So you got a existing parking lot, you got an existing building, existing infrastructure, and you're gonna just submit something to Ralph that says, you know, this is how we're gonna park, and he can, I believe, he can approve your site, but you don't have to go to site plan review. But in any case, when that happens, any building permit on the site, because the way the Mass Highway, and I'll give you a copy of this, the way the Mass Highway permit works is any construction, doesn't mean that opening. So, and your only obligation to that, once he gives you the building permit, like, because I understand you wanna get going and building your building. So, if he wants to give you the building permit for the way your site is now, his obligation is to make sure that you file for your permit, not that you have it in your hand, and then you can proceed with your building. And then Mass Highway, because you're above Mass Highway, will review what the building inspector has approved. And they might tweak it a little bit here and there, because it was existing, it was a school, you know.
Well, I'm gonna deal with you guys, because I'm coming for the, up the street, because the curb cuts, they're gonna do at the other property, they're gonna have to come for the final approval. And I'm pretty close, if you guys been by there, I tarred the first half, I'm tarring the second half in about 2 weeks, and then I gotta put the curb
One
in
of the
inside.
things Mass
It's gonna be the same guys.
Is your line of sight. I mean, you might have seen what our highway department just did at the intersection of Gifford, and they cut 177 back because of the line of sight. I've done some jobs on Mass Highway, and they made us cut 1,000 feet down the side just for, you know, that, one of the things what that permit does. You know, it's not,
Okay.
everybody's under the assumption, and Ralph feels that way too, is, oh, he's got a curb cut already. But the way the girl in permitting puts it, any construction, if you wanna cut a tree, like the riprap you got in the swale, technically you needed to file a permit.
Okay.
You can do that. You can go ahead and do that. It's at your own peril. You file a permit with Mass Highway, and then, you know, like what happened with our plan. We had approved the plan for, I wasn't on the board at the time, but for your other, where Joe's used to be, and then when Mass Highway got it, they tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah, they
It'd
took out
probably be the same thing.
took out what you guys gave me, and I'm taking it out. It's gonna be a greenery. It's gonna be all grass.
I'd offer, Bob, if you, any input, what do you think about that?
So Manny, what you're saying is that at the same time they file for the building permit with Ralph, they should file
Yeah,
with Mass Highway.
the way the procedure is.
Just give them the same thing what you're doing with Ralph,
Right.
and then they can decide what to do.
Right, and Ralph should be saying this to everybody on the Mass Highway.
I'll make copies, I'll bring them to them tomorrow.
And I've given them to them before, but what I'm saying is, and they can, and when something like that happens, I mean, we got a new planner and we're trying to work this out where when they apply for, under our site plan review, when we give them the review, approval, they have the same requirement to go in and file a Mass Highway curb cut permit. They can start the work, because basically we're saying, our approval meets the standards of Mass Highway. So when the building inspector reviews what you have existing and says, okay, I'm gonna give you a building permit, he's saying the same thing, you meet the standards of Mass Highway. So then Mass Highway just looks at what you submitted, and if there's any changes to be made, they'll, it's all online now, it's pretty simple.
Can I ask a question? So, in regards to Mr. Dale, so if I, down the road, anything I'm gonna do on the outside, before I do it, come to you guys for your approval, so you can look at it, even fencing, correct? Because there's a fence there right now, it's right on, when you pull into 177, those gates close, I don't know if you've been there.
Yep.
It's like you got enough for one car.
Yep.
And I kinda wanted to push it back and fence it off, so when you pull in, you stop. And the only thing I wanna do is just drill the tar and fence it off so nobody can come in at night. Because it's already blocked in the back. It's got the same gate in the back. It's got that old steel gate that stops and they got a chain going around it.
I think that what Mr. Taylor was saying, that if you're gonna be working on the outside part of it, and I don't know that putting fence posts in and moving the fence from right on 177 to 50 feet back, I don't know if that triggers site plan, but I think we'd want to look at that kind of thing, because we'd want to make sure that if people are gonna pull off 177, there's room to do that.
That's
In
why.
fact, the way it is now, I think would be a disaster, so.
That's why that's why I'm asking the question. Because it goes under the building permit. You put up a fence in town, you gotta have a building permit.
When you file for your Mass Highway curb cut permit, that's part of the procedure.
I put that on there for it?
Well, it says it right in it, they ask you, like, you need a pretty detailed plan of what's existing, and you submit it, and that's, they got procedures.
I've already had Mr. Smith come up anyway. You're gonna give me points, and I said, I knew I was gonna need it down the road, so I told him to go look at it.
And we had dealt with them before on another project, and they said, we're not working in the layout, but that's not the criteria is abuts the state highway. That's why you have to file that permit.
Yeah,
Abuts the state
let's
highway.
give Mr. Long a copy of this document. That'll explain a lot, I think.
I hope we haven't been too opaque.
Yeah, well, when there's a plan, then we can look at it.
And we, you present it, we can say, no, you don't need a permit, or yes, you do.
So I'm gonna go to Ralph tomorrow and pull a building permit. I'm just not touching anything on the outside of this building. Until I do, I come to you guys.
Well, when
And I'll do this. I'll file this.
yeah, well, the way that's written, and it is under Ralph's jurisdiction on his building permit, it says have to meet all state, federal, and local regulations, so that deals with stormwater and the Mass Highway permit. And so what it says is, when he issues you the building permit, you can't do any construction, and that means cut a tree on the side of the highway until you file for it. The second, and you do it right online, you can do it tomorrow, and then you can start.
Okay, it'll be done tomorrow. I thank you.
Okay,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
You ready for minutes?
Minutes, please, September 20th. I don't think I have the minutes.
They were in our packets.
Emailed. It was emailed.
Where?
I think it was emailed. I emailed it to you after.
After this?
I think I emailed it on Monday.
Jim, could I just pick one more question on that? The Mass Highway curb cut permit. I think we should send Ralph a letter, because the requirement is, when he issues the permit, they cannot begin work until it's filed. But once it's filed, and they can CC the building department or us on that, and we know it's filed, and then the state's reviewing the site plan now. Because essentially what Ralph's doing, by giving them the building permit, like the car lot, when you look at, okay, this is how many cars you got, the parking lot's good. So if Ralph's saying, oh, yeah, you're not changing anything, everything's good for what you're doing, when it gets to Mass Highway, like those issues with moving the fence, cutting the tree lines back, the drainage work in the swale, that's all gonna be approved by Mass Highway.
So send a letter to Ralph for what?
So a letter saying that, you know, along Route 6 and along 77, there's no access off of 88, so along our two state highways, that if the applicants come in and they're doing any work, I'm sure, you know, I don't know that he's gonna need work, but it's very likely that he's gonna need some work on the site. So that, before you issue a building permit, if the property fronts on a state highway, then he should get a copy of the applicant's filing for a curb cut modification. Even if there is the existing curb cut, he can file for a curb cut modification. And just, that should be done before the building permits are issued. When he comes in to apply for a building permit, that he makes a statement that he's only working on the building, but he needs to be on the state highway. He should file for the state highway permit. And if in fact it's true, he does nothing to it, and it is a compliant curb cut, then he doesn't, then he won't need a permit, he won't get a permit. But I don't, that school is 20+ years old, and
Well, according to Nicole, in permitting any work at all, even to the building, they
Yeah.
want to review it. So
that
it's,
was, the motion,
and
the
it's
motion
been-
is,
the one that was just, that he just rejected, when the looking native was looking for the permit, he's given 2 permits for 900 square feet on 2 different buildings on that site, and switched the house into a business, and there's been parking lots paved, there's been all kinds of stuff on 177. So one of the things is, you have an existing curb cut, but they have radiuses for coming out, like he was saying where his gate is. The other one, they come out with trailer trucks, and they go down to 177, and the sun in the morning's in one eye and it's the other way, and he comes right across the line. You know, there was a telephone pole there where he repaved it, he put another driveway on the side of it, and Ralph said, no, he doesn't need to go to site plan, he does. And when you get the permit from Mass Highway, they'll fix that.
so it just says that before the building permit gets issued, he has to show that he's filed online for a state highway curb cut permit. Even if there's a curb cut there, they frequently require them to be modified. What we're trying to avoid is people get a building permit, then they go ahead and do all the site work, and then they come in and say, oh,
They ask permission later?
I'm in a jam, you gotta help me get a state highway permit. Mr. Chairman, I did review these minutes and would move that they be approved, the minutes of September 20th.
So did I, and I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And 1 abstention, so I have it read. Short, long-term planning discussions. I think we should spend a few minutes in talking about, now that we have a town planner, are there any short, long-term planning discussions? There are plenty we are involved with already, that we would like Michael to start looking at as he gets his feet wet here.
Chair, I would like to say that we're all involved in a number of committees, Michael, and as you get your feet on the ground, I chair the Climate Resilience Committee. You know how to get in touch with me. Email me or text me or wave a flag or stand up in your new desk. I will come in.
It's too expensive.
I'm the new chair.
Amy and Nadine, I don't want to take the time at this meeting after 2 hours, but I'll come in and bring you up to speed on that committee. I know Mark's on various committees. Bob chairs, I think at last count, 13 different infrastructure committees. So
Vice chair, I never
yeah,
chair.
yeah.
One of which
And
I'll
my
be-
suggestion is that, you know, so we don't blow all your fuses, that at your absorption rate, you deal with us one at a time. We're easier to take that way, I think. That's my suggestion, Mr. Chair, as to how,
I think that's completely appropriate,
yeah.
so.
And he's actually doing that. We have the infrastructure oversight committee tomorrow night.
I'll be in attendance at that.
Both the senator and our state rep there, talking about funding, and Michael has already joined us.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.